How would you like to make $30 an hour driving for Uber and Lyft?
Xbox,
Twitter, Uber,
Postmates,
Netflix, MoviePass,
Google, Facebook, eBay,
DoorDash,
Apple, Amazon,
Airbnb,
The Apptrepreneur. Hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur. And Uber and Lyft for years actually advertised that you could make $30 to $40 an hour driving the service. Now, they don't advertise that as much. Now they say more like $25 an hour. Either way, regardless what price they were giving you and when they told you, that figure was way too high. You rarely got that much money, and the thing is, you will never make that much money, especially when you factor in wear and tear, maintenance, oil changes, gas, new tires, all that jazz. You'll just never make that kind of money. If ever someone shows you anything like, look, I average $27 an hour, here's the receipts, it's like, keep in mind, there's expenses underneath all of that. It's just paper profits. Well, here's the thing. A lot of companies are starting to debate what drivers should be earning. And I admit that I'm a little late to this news story. This story actually happened like 10 days ago by the time you're seeing this. However, I do think it's worth talking about. And that is that California El Monte, California, I should actually say, that's more appropriate, actually voted to give rideshare drivers a huge pay increase. However, before we talk about any of that, let's have a word from our sponsors. And today's video is sponsored by Maximo, the rideshare automation app that allows drivers to safely and easily accept ride requests for Uber, Lyft, and Postmates. Whether you drive for a single platform or multiple platforms, Maximo's custom settings can help you drive more efficient, less distracted, and help you maximize your earnings. It will automatically accept one trip, turn off the other apps, and when your trip is over, it will end it, open the other apps, and accept the next trip, all without you having to touch your phone. Use referral code APP60 and get your first month free when you subscribe to Maximo. So from Fast Company, this California city just voted to give a $30 minimum wage to Uber and Lyft drivers. Again, I'm a little late to this, I acknowledge. I know other Uber tubers have covered this before me, but I do think this is worth talking about, and the fact that I missed talking about it doesn't make it not worth talking about. So anyway, in Los Angeles County, where the minimum wage is currently $14.25 an hour, studies suggest that Uber and Lyft drivers often make far less. In El Monte, an industrial city of East Los Angeles, the city council just unanimously voted to change that, telling city officials to begin drafting a law that would guarantee a minimum of $30 an hour. While other cities have set minimum wages for ride-hail drivers, this would be the highest in the country, and it comes after pressure from the Mobile Workers Alliance, a project from the Service Employees International Union, Local 721. Currently, workers who are working for companies like Uber and Lyft are working lots of hours and still making less than minimum wage, says Corel Itzcali, an organizer for the union. On average, we hear from workers that they're working daily 12 to 16 hours a day. That translates to tired people behind the wheel on already congested public roads, and no one should put their life or the life of someone else at risk by being so tired behind the wheel just because they're trying to earn the pennies on the dollar that Uber and Lyft is paying them. It's actually something that's not discussed as much as we probably should, because you know what, there are people out there. I know some of you are thinking that I'm throwing certain people. No, there's several people out there, some of whom are very nice, who do work 12, 16 hours a day. They do that hustle, and they make that money on Uber and Lyft, and they say they're happy. And you know what? I have no reason to doubt that they're happy. But the thing is, you work that many hours, aside from the fact that you can't really do anything, that will at some point wear on you. Like, it is good to get 8 hours of sleep a day. Some of these people only get 6, and they're not resting. They're just constantly working, and that puts everyone at risk. And it's something that's not talked about nearly as much as they should. The pay might sound generous, but it's intended to provide drivers with $15 an hour to cover the cost of operating their cars, and another $15 in take-home pay. Not sure what it would look like after taxes, but there you have it. It's Cali says the drivers have to cover the cost of gas, frequent oil changes, and other maintenance because they're driving so many miles, and extra insurance because standard car insurance doesn't cover ride-hail drivers. Lyft says drivers are covered by the company when they are in driver mode. And you see, yeah, statements like that, statements like this is what makes the insurance thing confusing for a lot of people, because like when you ask Lyft, like, hey, am I covered by your insurance? They're like, oh yeah, in driver mode you're covered. Well, what does that mean? That means, well, when the driver app is on, in theory, it should mean you're covered. And yet there have been horror stories of people getting into accidents, like while they're in driver mode, before they have picked up the passenger. And Lyft says, well, a passenger wasn't in your car, so you're not covered. And then your insurance company says you were on Lyft's platform, their insurance should cover you. And that's why it's vitally, vitally important, regardless how much you do this, that you have ride share insurance. It is absolutely vital that you have ride share insurance, regardless how little or how much you do, because of situations like this. And Lyft does not help matters, because when Lyft says something like this, I think they're saying it because it's like, if you have to get insurance, if that's like a cost that you have to bear, you're less likely to try them out or drive for them. So Lyft says, oh, no, you're covered when you're driver mode, not telling you the full extent of what that statement actually means. Sorry, that was a little side tangent. Let's get back to the minimum wage. Many drivers have to work a week and a half just to cover the basic operating expenses of driving. A recent study from the Economic Policy Institute found that the average hourly wage for Uber drivers was just $11.77. The union's own survey suggests it's actually closer to $8 to $9 an hour in the area. California is one of the most expensive states to live in, says It's Cali. Housing is very, very expensive. Many of these folks are just one paycheck away from being homeless. We already have a homeless crisis. Well, that's because, the rent keeps going up, and yet California voted to not control the rent. Just pointing that out to everyone in California. Anyway, it is something that we all feel is urgent, because we cannot continue to allow these companies to drive our communities to the ground, or let the landlords continue to screw everyone. City officials will have 120 days to develop the new ordinance, which will likely require another vote. Lyft, in response, offered a boilerplate statement that didn't address El Monte specifically and won't say what they calculate the hourly rate of drivers in El Monte is, because of course they won't. They never do. They always say, oh, our studies show they make around this much. It's like, oh, well, do you have the data? It's like, well, yeah, of course, but I mean, proprietary. Let's see here. Where was I? The company offered some broader figures. What did I say? That in California, drivers make $30 an hour for booked hours, the time between when a driver books a trip and when they drop the passenger off. Whatever. In the greater Los Angeles area, the company says drivers spend roughly 90% of their time booked, which would mean a roughly $27 per hour wage before expenses like gas and depreciation. Uber did not respond to requests for comment. In the meantime, a separate state bill is making its way to the governor that would force companies like Uber and Lyft to classify drivers as employees, not independent contractors. And yeah, I kind of wonder, like, if El Monte actually passes this $30 an hour bill, I kind of wonder what that does to the employment status. Like, do the drivers still get to stay independent contractors? What if you don't live in El Monte? Can a bunch of drivers just now flood the El Monte market to make $30 an hour? It's going to be interesting to see exactly what's going to happen with this. But here's the bottom line. Uber drivers are paid way too little. Even the people who make a lot of money driving a lot of hours, I'm sure if you were to ask them honestly, well, but if you could make this kind of money driving like 10 hours, 12 hours less, would you be happy? And I'm sure they'd all go like, yeah, we would totally be happy with that. So, in Uber and Lyft, they just keep taking advantage. Now, Uber and Lyft, some might say, are not in a financial position to pay drivers this kind of money. After all, they have just fired a bunch of their marketers on the team, and they've initiated a hiring freeze. And by the way, prediction, like just before the next quarter earnings are reported, I bet you there will be more layoffs, particularly from Uber. neither company is doing particularly well, and so they might not be able to afford this. So, hey, they might just leave the area altogether. I acknowledge that is a potential problem. However, here's the other thing to keep in mind. These are publicly traded companies. They need to figure out how to pay their drivers at least minimum wage and be running. The fact that, and they have been running at a loss for I don't know how many years. Wall Street has every right to not be rewarding them for not making money, and they shouldn't. And it seems like they're finally waking up to that. Who knows? Like, I think they have enough money in the bank to keep running for a couple of years, but unless the investors really rally behind them, we've got a couple more years with these companies, and that's it. That's it. So, and the drivers do need to be taken care of. Notice how the driverless cars are still not here. I mean, 3 years ago, I first started talking about driverless cars, and they were saying by last year they would be all over the road. They're not on the road. They're on testing roads, and maybe you see an occasional one here and there. And then when they kill someone, they get pulled off the road. So you need to be taking care of the drivers, and no one is doing it. So now, do I think this is excessive? No, not really. I mean, here's the thing. If this law gets passed, maybe Uber can make like a compromise. Like, hey, if we provide the vehicles for the drivers, could we then get down to paying them $15 an hour? And, maybe that would be okay for them, like, or at least guaranteeing them $15 an hour, because they still deserve to make a little bit more than that. But yeah, I think at some point there's going to have to be something about, hey, if you're using your own car, you got to get paid a lot more money. And some people might say it's going to speed up the autonomous revolution. I don't know, man. I don't know. Again, I've been seeing these autonomous cars. It's supposed to have been coming for a long time. Still not here. I don't know what's going to happen in the future, though. It is true that such a price hike would definitely force Uber and Lyft to react, and we don't know how they would react. And that's just a question mark on everyone's mind. Will they completely pull out? Will they actually pay it? Will they try spend more money on autonomous vehicles? Will they try to outsource? Like, who knows what's going to happen? Heck, will they start hiring illegal immigrants to drive the cars and pay them far less? I don't know. I just don't know how Uber and Lyft will react to any of this, and it's scary. And I will obviously be keeping my eye on it as best as I can, even though, again, I'm like 10 days late talking about this one. Oh well, we're catching back up to the daily grind of things. So anyway, that's pretty much where I'm going to leave that, though. What do you folks think? Do you think this sounds fair? Do you think $30 an hour minimum wage is a good fare, or do you think it's too much? Do you think it's too little? I would love to know. Comment below, like, favorite, share, subscribe. If you enjoy my videos, consider becoming a Patreon member. It's totally optional, of course, but even as little as $1 a month goes a long way to helping the channel run smoothly, and you get access to my Patreon's exclusive blog. Also, if gas prices get you just a little down, check out the Get Upside app below. It's totally free, but you get cash back on every gas purchase. If you want to see more content from me that's not rideshare related, check me out at Kevin T. Rodriguez, the Apptrepreneur Vlogs, and Autograph Hound YouTube channels. And finally, if you want to talk to me or other fellow rideshare drivers, check us out on Facebook at the Apptrepreneur Hangouts. And as always, flame responsibly. Have a good one.